I ended up volunteering for a program that was called Adopt an Apartment Project, and it was through the 6th Street Shelter. So I went to the 6th Street Shelter, and what we did is we basically took this empty apartment and we put beds in it, we put toiletries in it, we put food in it, like for this family who was homeless. And I made the beds with like hospital corners and stuff, so I wanted to show off that I knew how to do that. So I made the bed for these hospital corners, and this little girl popped in the room, and she was running around the room so happy, like running around this little apartment, like ecstatic. Like, and I was like, wow, like, you know, all the things I take for granted. And I said, this little girl is just happy to be in this apartment. She looked at her mom and she said, she's a mom. And there was like this long dresser like on the floor. And she looked at her, she says, is that where I'm sleeping tonight? She's like, no, honey, you got your own bed. And this girl was running around like so ecstatic about having her own bed. I was like, oh my God. I was like, you gotta chase that feeling.
Welcome to YMI Talking, a podcast where the guests are so good, you'll wonder why the host is even talking. In each episode, you will hear one of the leaders of the Lehigh Valley's vibrant business hub. They will tell you the keys to their success, the mistakes they've made, and what they have in store for the future. Here is the host of YMI Talking, from YMI Insurance, Jimmy Honachik.
Is me. I'm Jimmy Honachik, and this is another episode of YMI Talking, and I am joined, as always, up until this point, by the wonderful Avery Pennell.
Hi. How are you?
I tried to get back in there, but you had to have your moment, and it was great.
Me.
It is. But I prefaced it that way because you're not going to be with us forever.
Don't make me cry.
I'm probably actually going to cry first. You are pursuing your career in education.
I am.
Which is a noble and worthy cause.
Thank you.
But that doesn't stop me from trying really hard to persuade you not to do it.
Every minute of every day.
Yeah. So if you want to give up on your dreams, you can keep working here.
I have considered and reconsidered, especially now that finals are coming up. I'm like,
yeah, you don't have to take them.
you can actually fail them.
You can fail them.
I would love it if you fail.
It's your choice. So that's been said. You are obviously a very fun and wonderful and awesome member of the team.
Well, we're so good, Jimmy.
Thank you.
This has been a dream job.
Good. Please say that again so everyone hears that.
This has been a dream job.
Good. And you can't record anything when I'm not around.
That's fair.
Good. So yeah, we are looking to find someone to replace you.
Exciting venture. Good luck with that. Yes. Nobody is me and you won't be able to replace me.
What did Tom Carson, our guest today, say? He said, you were so dope, God only made one of you.
Oh, he did say that.
Yeah, and that was a good line.
I was like, wow. I pretended like he said it specifically to me.
I think he did, though. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we were talking about our names.
Mm-hmm.
I love my name. I'm one of one. You're one of three now.
3 awesome people.
I mean, yeah.
The James Honachiks of the world.
They are pretty cool.
They are.
But I have to argue that my name is pretty visual for me.
Right.
I love it. We'll not have an Avery Jr.
But that was one line that he said that was awesome. And then the whole episode was more lines of awesomeness out of Tom Carson.
It was just like bar after bar, as the kids would say.
That sounds like something the kids would say. I can't confirm that. But it really was. I had to ask him before we wrapped up, like, where his storytelling comes from. Because as he was telling that one story, and I don't want to ruin it, about Warrior Week, I literally was on the edge of my seat the whole time. You could tell it was building up to something, and it did.
I'm supposed to be taking notes during this point. I literally found myself so enamored by it, and then I was like, oh, I gotta write this down. Write that down.
So I guess we should get into it. Give the people what they want, which is not me. It's not you, I don't think.
I think it's a sound effect they want.
What does it sound like? And that is our cue. All right, please enjoy this episode with Tom Carson and Victory House. It's incredible. We are here. Why am I talking? And our guest today is lights out. I mean, is so involved in the community. When we talk about making a difference in the community, you can't do any better than our guest today. Tom Carson comes from Victory House, Lehigh Valley, and I'm so excited to have you here, Tom. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Such kind words to start out our podcast. I love it.
It's all downhill from here. No, I mean, let's talk about Victory House, right? Like, you guys are an incredible institution. Tell us a bit about your mission, about your goals, and what you do in Bethlehem and beyond.
Yeah, Victory House is a great community resource. We've been around since 1985, just helping homeless men transition to independent living. We're known for our veterans program, but we actually serve non-veterans as well. We serve them with case management, healthcare. We have a little fitness center in there. Nice. Pretty much everything someone needs to overcome becoming homeless. So.
And it's an incredible goal, and there's got to be so many factors that you guys are battling and working with. Talk to me, about sort of what a day in the life looks like for you there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the days are pretty different every single day, but normally we'll come in the morning and we'll have our team meeting where we all get together and we talk about some of the issues that we're having. We talk about some of the people that need some support. We have a little clinical meeting where we get together and we discuss, how we can help certain individuals that are within our program. And then it's all task centered from there, meet with client John Doe, meet with client about getting linked into healthcare services, meet with client about life skills, like just different things. It's all different. And what I realized in this homeless field, this working with people who are homeless, is 90% of the time it's just bad things that happen to good people. Somebody, may have just recently gotten a divorce, or somebody had an addiction issue, or somebody, had some mental health problems that they need to get over. So it's a beautiful thing to just be able to work with a bunch of different types of people who have just different issues that you can help them with. So. Does
that make it more challenging though, right? Because you're right, like the root of it comes from so many different places. How do you guys have the resources, to help?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging because everybody's different. Everybody's got different issues that they're dealing with. Everybody's reasoning for entering homelessness is a little bit different. But what's a blessing for us is we got a vast amount of community resources that help us with everything. We got connections in addiction through different treatment centers. We got connections in mental health. We work with CareerLink. We work with all these different agencies to provide our guys with services. So that's a blessing in itself, that we have good connections that can help our clients out.
Yeah. To that point of good connections, fundraising, I imagine, is always top of mind for you.
Yeah.
Where does the money come from? Like, where is the support coming from for you guys? What are your big channels?
Yeah, we have a lot of community support. We have restaurants that do dine to donates. We have one coming up actually on Tuesday at Apollo Grill, doing a dine to donate for us. We have different, MCs that are the motorcycle crews that are helping us out. Nom Nights is a big veteran supporter, and Leathernecks, and just the community in general. We have a great community that comes out, helps us out. Wind Creek helps us as well. There's just a lot of support that we have around Victory House. We also have a lot of, contracted vendors. We have Northampton County, who helps us with, serving our people who are struggling with mental health or drug and alcohol addiction. And the biggest one is probably the Department of Veterans Affairs, who really believes in our mission and has accredited us with our grant and per diem program, which is the only one currently in Lehigh Valley to service veterans who are currently homeless with transitional housing services. So, wow. And we have a lot of good community supports.
And you said, you're not solely veterans, but they are a large contingent. How does that, how do you guys think about that? How do you guys work with that community?
Yeah, so, I mean, luckily for me, I'm a veteran myself. I served 8 years in the Air Force. I went in 2003 and got out in 2011. So the way I look at it is I'm serving my brothers. Like, I'm serving guys that I could have served with. I'm giving back to them. But veterans are complex. There's a lot of different issues that they're dealing with, and there's a lot of supports that are needed. We work with multi-generation veterans, so we might work with a guy who served in the Vietnam era, who has different needs than a guy who served in the Gulf War or the post 9/11, the Iraq and Afghanistan era. So it's very challenging, but the VA has been a great support, and the community has been also a great support for that. They identify veterans as a priority population. So veterans are usually put on the head of the list when it comes to getting certain services.
Yeah. And we've touched on it, but walk me through the specific services that Victory House does offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer case management services. We have 2 dedicated case managers on staff, and they basically meet with the clients and develop an assessment of where they're at, and then develop a goal plan, ways that they can work with them. Some of the goals are very simple, maybe just obtaining an ID card, or maybe getting employed, or staying sober for 6 months. So we identify all these goals, and then the case manager works with them, and they help them get linked to the resources that are going to help them achieve these goals. And ultimately, the end goal is to find permanent housing. Mm-hmm. We just did our quarterly report, or actually we got our yearly report from the VA, and it was right around 76% was able to transition to permanent housing. Yeah. With like 87% were able to find stable employment. So
wow,
it's pretty cool.
That's got to feel good for you to be able to make that difference.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It feels like that. It's weird because I thought my service, when I joined the Air Force, I thought that was going to be my service to my country.
Right.
I was like, that's why 90% of the people join the military, they want to serve their country. I never would have realized that my service was going to come after. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is where my service is really coming. It's helping people who are down on their luck, helping people that just need a little bit of assistance, helping them get back on their feet, and ultimately transition to permanent housing. So
we have talked about your military background, but let's go deeper. Who is Tom Carson? Yeah. Let's learn about Tom. Who are you? What's your story?
Yeah, well, I'm an Allentown native. I was born here in the Lehigh Valley. I think I was born on top of a bar. I couldn't tell you which one. But
is there a story there?
There might be. I'd have to ask my parents to give me the whole detail. I was a little too young to know the exact detail.
Remember.
But I know I was born on top of a bar, to be sure. So my parents are from the Lehigh Valley as well. My dad, Bud Carson, he's a Lehigh Valley native. My mom, Janet Carson, she was in the Lehigh Valley Deerfield High School. So there was an Allen and Deerfield connection, which is very rare.
Yeah.
My mom went to Deerfield, my dad went to Allen. They met, and they birthed me, and I have a twin sister, Tiffany.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they birthed me and my twin sister. And
is Tiffany in the area?
Yeah, she's in Northampton currently.
Okay.
She lives in Northampton.
Is there any twin connection? Do you guys sense each other? I'm convinced this is real.
Sometimes.
See, I knew it.
Yeah,
all right, good.
Sometimes I'll be having a bad day, and then she'll just call me, and then she's like, "I knew you were having a bad day." It's like, crap. What's going on here? What else do you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a good connection. I have a great relationship with my sister.
That's great.
When I was in the military, we stood in contact all the time.
Yeah.
Call home, and she'd help me out with a lot of things. So, yeah. So I grew up in Allentown. I went to middle school at South Mountain Middle School, mm-hmm. and then ended up going to William Allen. My parents split up when I was in elementary school, and my sister ended up living with my mom, and I ended up living with my father. So that's where I kind of learned. I learned a lot through my father because he was a U.S. Marine, mm-hmm. so I got a little bit of structure in my life. And then ultimately, I ended up graduating high school, and I didn't really know which direction I wanted to go in my life. And I graduated high school, and I ended up going into the United States Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah, 9/11 happened, and then I was really gung-ho about, making sure that I was serving my country.
Yeah. And what year did you graduate high school?
2003.
Okay.
So I went in the military right after.
Wow.
I got lucky, and I was on a delayed entry program, and they called, and they said, "You can go in a month." I'm like, "I'm there."
Wow.
So I was shipped off to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Very rarely left the state of Pennsylvania, and I was onto a chapter in Texas.
Yeah.
Texas is a whole different world.
It is.
That's like its own country in itself. So,
yeah. Where? So you said the city, but where in Texas is
it? It was in San Antonio.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. And so then from Texas, were you deployed from there?
Yeah, Texas. I went to after I got done with basic training. I ended up going to Shepherd Air Force Base for more training.
Okay.
So I was what's called an aerospace ground equipment mechanic, And from basic, I went to Shepherd Air Force Base, and it was almost like a 6-month program, a long program. So I got there, and then from there I went to Louisiana for a few years, and then I went to Guam. My deployment was to Guam, which was beautiful. It was amazing. I went to Guam, and then I came back to Louisiana, and then from Louisiana I went to Korea for a little over a year, and then from Korea I left and went to Virginia. So I got to Virginia. So I've been all around the world. It was pretty cool, pretty good experience.
It is. Talk about the training you received in the military. It's something that I didn't appreciate until I entered the business world, but you see military people in a business setting and you know right away, right? Like they come prepared, and they're a force to be reckoned with. So talk to me about the training you received in the military and maybe how that's helped you professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you say that, because I just did a keynote speech and I was talking about my struggles with the training. So I got to San Antonio, and as soon as I hop off the plane, they grab you off the plane and they ship you off to your basic training site. Yeah. And when you get to the basic training site, you have to stand on like this little pad at attention. So you stand there at attention, and all of a sudden all the TIs just start coming in, and they're grilling you, and they're coming from every direction and trying to break you down. One of the main goals in basic training is to break you down, so you have that structure and you could react under pressure. So I was in basic training, and I struggled a little bit at first. Like in military, your uniforms have to be like crisp. You have to have your boots shine to where you like show an ID card in these boots. And all this stuff, and they would do this thing they'd pull like 341s off you. So there was like this little card, and every time you had an infraction, they would pull this card off you. So I remember I would have these little infractions. Like there was a string on my uniform, or I'd have like some paper in my pocket or something. So they would pull these 341s off you. So I was like, all right. So I had these minor infractions. So I get in basic training, I get all the way up to Warrior Week, which was like the week where you go out into the field and you shoot the M16 for the first time, and you get into what the gas chamber. So they actually tear gas. Yeah. So you have to get into this chamber, and the TI's in front of you, and he's like, pull your mask off. So you pull your mask off, and then he's like, you have to answer a question. That way you suck in all the gas. So I suck in all the gas, and I take it in, and I go out, and everybody's crying. They got like sweat down there. Their faces are all red. They got snot coming out everywhere. So I get done with that, and I'm like, wow, like, this feels good. This feels great. Like the hardest week, I finished, I accomplished it. And then after that, we did like a warrior run. It was like a 2-mile run, and you got to go through like all these obstacles. You got to climb over water. You got to do all these different things. So I get done with those. Yeah. And like top 3, like I was like, finished like in the top 3. So I was like, wow, this is great. Like I'm killing it right now. And so I get back, like Warrior Week's over, and I get back to the chow hall, and I'm going through the chow hall line, and I'm getting my food. And I'm like, yeah, you did good. Patting myself on the back, feeling real good, walking my chest out. Like I just finished the hardest week. I only got like a week left. I said, this is amazing. This is an amazing feeling. So at the end of the chow hall line, it's a trap. They got all these desserts. They got cakes, pies, like whatever you can possibly imagine. And I'm like, man, so I can go for a piece of cake right now. Yeah. So I take a left out of the chow hall line. As soon as I take that left, I grab this cake. As soon as I put the cake on my plate, I turn around, boom. There's like 6 drill instructors in front of me. They call it the snake pit. They're literally there just waiting for someone to grab a piece of cake, like so they can get on them, and then they can just grill them in from each direction. And so as soon as I grab it, I turn it, and then I got 6 TIs in front of me, and they're grilling me, and they're asking me all these questions. They're like simple questions I should be able to answer. What base are you at? Who's your base commander? All these things. And I froze. I couldn't say nothing, and I just started crying. Like tears just started coming down my eyes. I'm like, oh man, like I'm in front of all these people. Yeah. So they say to me, go, as soon as you get done with this, go see your first sergeant. So your first sergeant is like the person that gives the administrative details, like the boss, of your flight. So I go see my first sergeant, and I get up there in front of the first sergeant, and I'm standing there, and she's like, Airman Carson, she's like, you have multiple infractions. You had this issue with your uniform. You had all this other stuff. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And she says, based on this infraction that you had right here, you couldn't even answer any simple questions. She's like, you're not fit right now for the military. Oh my God. And I was like, oh my God, like they're going to kick me out. And I was like, I just finished the hardest week ever. I was like, this is crazy. I thought I was going to graduate next week. So she said, what we're going to do, we're going to wash you back a week. So the hardest week I just completed, she's going to
do it again.
Back. Well, I didn't, but actually I wish I would have had to do it again because they did something that was even worse. They set me in a room by myself until the flight got finished because the flight that I was getting washed back into was getting ready to finish Warrior Week and come back and finish everything. So they set me back into a room and I had to wait till that flight returned. What they didn't know is that my mom was already on base to see me graduate.
No.
So I didn't, so my mom never got the opportunity to see me graduate basic training. But the cool thing about that is since then I've done probably 5 or 6 keynote speech, not keynote, but I've spoke at various events.
Yeah.
I just did a keynote speech for an hour and a half. And now I'm here on this awesome podcast.
Yeah.
So that happened to me. And for the longest time, I said, man, this happened to me. But what I've realized now is that all happened for me.
Right.
That now when I was in the military, after that happened, I ended up graduating finally. And I ended up doing really well. I was in charge of what's called war ready material, the WRMs, where I had to actually brief some higher level ranking officers. I could speak in front of them.
Yeah.
So in basic training, I couldn't speak in front of anybody, but now I could pretty much speak in front of anybody. And it's so I realized that didn't happen to me; it happened for me. It gave me, something that I can look forward to. And after that event, I made it a purpose to be able to speak in front of people and have conversations with people, which is probably ultimately why I do so well in the career field that I'm in, because I don't have any issues talking to anybody about anything. In the shelter, you have to talk about some pretty serious things, and sometimes you got to give some harsh feedback. There's guys that coming off the streets, and I have to tell them you have to take a shower. I was like, and I have the ability to do that now because I had that experience, and I've grown from that experience tremendously. So that was actually ended up being a blessing for me.
Yeah,
that was early in my career. That was early in my military career, and since then, I've like I said, I've got to travel the world. I've lived in Texas, Louisiana, Guam, Korea for a year, and then I got out and I went to school at Penn State, and actually, I did really well in speech class, which was crazy because that's most people's biggest fear is public speaking. It's a very difficult thing to do.
My biggest fear is Warrior Week. Now that you've described that, that's incredible that you went through that.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that you now have this ability to speak publicly and be on top of your game kind of at all times. So the public speaking class at Penn State, you said you felt prepared coming into that and ready to go? Yeah.
Yeah, I was comfortable with doing that.
Was that your major, or was that just a course?
I majored in, I started out with criminal justice because I thought that would be an excellent transition. I was like, I got 8 years military experience. I'll get a degree in criminal justice and I'll transition to being a police officer. And I had an altercation with one of the professors. It was something really stupid, but I left the class. It was one of those classes. If anybody's ever been to college, usually, especially night school ones, they're like, okay, we could either do this. You could either take your break halfway through, or we could just push all the way through to get you out of here early. And of course, everybody wants to leave early. It's a night class. Yeah. Everybody's like, yeah, let's push through. Well, if you see me when I walked in, I have a big jug of water and I carry around. So, and I've always been drinking a lot of water, probably from the military. You got to hydrate after every stop. You hydrate. So I was drinking this jug of water and I had to go to the bathroom. Yeah. So I got out. I left the room to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, it's one of those doors that lock behind you. So he was in the middle of his presentation, and I was trying to tap on the glass. I was like, "Hey, can somebody let me in here?" So finally, somebody had opened the door and let me in. And as soon as I walked in, he called me out in front of the whole class, and that just triggered when everything from basic training. Yeah. So he called me out in front of the class, like, "Thanks for interrupting my presentation," or whatever. And I was like, "I'm sorry." So I waited till after the class, and I talked to him after the class. I said, "Sir, I don't appreciate the way you called me out in front of the whole class." I said I had to go to the bathroom, bro. It was something. I was either gonna pee myself or I was gonna leave to go to the bathroom. And he's like, well, and I think he had me mixed up with somebody else or something, because he's like, you're typically late to class. And like, he had all these things. And I'm like, I think you got the wrong guy, bro. Like I stay here all day long, like, 'cause I don't want to drive home. Like, so, and I try to be everywhere early, even for here.
We're aware. We were not ready for you.
Most people are. And it's okay. So I was like, I think you got the wrong guy. And then he's like, well, anyways, he's like, if you're going to take offense to something like that, you're not ready for this field. He's like, this isn't the right field for you. And I was like, wow. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I was like, so from that point, I was like, maybe I don't want to be a cop if I'm going to be treated like this, and obviously I've grown and understand that, that's not typical. People don't treat people typically like that. But from there, I said,
not everyone's an asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm glad you said it. So I was like, all right, cool. So I ended up volunteering for a program. It was called Adopt an Apartment Project. And it was through the 6th Street shelter. So I went to the 6th Street shelter, and what we did is we basically took this empty apartment and we put beds in it. We put toiletries in it. We put food in it, like for this family who was homeless. And I made the beds with like hospital corners and stuff, because I wanted to show off that I knew how to do that. So I made the bed for these hospital corners, and this little girl popped in the room. And she was running around the room so happy, like running around this little apartment, like ecstatic. Like, and I was like, wow, like, all the things I take for granted. I said, this little girl is just happy to be in this apartment. She looked at her mom and she said, Mom, and there was like this long dresser like on the floor. And she looked at it, she says, is that where I'm sleeping tonight? She's like, no, honey, you got your own bed. Oh, and this girl was running around like so ecstatic about having her own bed. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I'm going to chase that feeling. So that's when I went back to school, and I decided I was going to get into rehabilitation and human services. So I said, I no longer want to be the person that's, incarcerating people. I don't really want that. I want to help them get away from all that stuff. And I wanted to chase that feeling of what I felt that day that I was in that apartment, knowing I made a difference in somebody's life. This little girl was so happy because I made a bed for her. Like, imagine the other things that I can do if this is going to make the difference. So I ended up going to Penn State for rehabilitation and human services. And when it got time to graduate from Penn State, we had to do an internship. And it was a 6 month internship. It was basically a full-time job. So I did the internship, or even before that, my professor was asking me, she's like, so what is it where would you like to work? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm a veteran. I said, I really like the way I felt working with this homeless family. I said, let's do veterans and homelessness. And she's like, okay, like let's find a place. So we sat there on the computer and we Googled veteran homelessness. Yeah. First thing that popped up was Victory House at Lehigh Valley. I was like, holy crap, there's a spot for me. So I went there and I interviewed with the executive director at the time, and he let me do the internship on the spot. Like, it was beautiful. So I did the internship, and then they hired me on as a case manager there. And then when that time lapsed, because I was hired as a case manager because the other case manager was out on a medical leave. So they let me be a case manager until she returned. And then when I got done, I ended up working in drug and alcohol for a little bit. I worked with Veterans of Treatment Trends, Inc., Keenan House and Halfway Home to Lehigh Valley. And I was running groups with veterans and helping them with all kinds of needs that they had, getting signed up for benefits, even small as getting their DD-214, which is the paperwork where you exit the military. So I worked with them for a while. And one day I was walking into work. This is when we started a program called the Center of Excellence, where we were helping people with opioid use disorder. We were helping them. They were coming off the streets, and we were helping them get linked into services, get linked into treatment. And one day I was coming to work, and I got a phone call from my old internship supervisor. And she's like, hey, Tom, would you be interested in my job? I'm like, well, where are you going? I was like, that's crazy. So she ended up moving to Florida. So they hired me on. I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. So they hired me on as a program director from the place that I interned at. And a year later, I was promoted to associate executive director. Wow. And then the executive director at the time retired, and I became the executive director. So that's my great story with Victory House. Yeah. And how I kind of transitioned to the role of executive director.
That's awesome. Congrats. Good for you.
Thank you.
You guys are doing great things. I just looked at the clock and I'm like, oh no, we are running low. And I got 2 questions I have to hit you with. The first is storytelling. Like, I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat as you're telling all of these stories. I mean, I guess the public speaking is part of that, but where does that gift that you have come from? Like, clearly you have a gift for this. Any idea where that came from?
Yeah, I believe in shining your light. I think stories are what helps people grow. I think there's somebody out there right now that's going to listen to this podcast and they're going to say, you know what, like that's where I was at. You know, I remember being embarrassed one time, or I remember struggling with something one time, and that's where I was at. And if he can do it, I can do it. You know, and I really believe in this. I tell all my clients, I say, shine your light. There's no reason to keep things secret. You know, shine your light, tell people, give people hope, give people a reason to continue to grow, to continue to do what they're looking for doing in their life. And I think that's what really changes the world the most, is seeing testimonials, seeing people that were once homeless. You know, we got a guy on our board of directors, Kevin McLeod. He was once a homeless resident of ours, and now he's our vice president on the board of directors. And he's now working in the community as a certified recovery specialist, coming to Victory House and showing people the ropes, showing them, hey, I did this. I was in your spot. I was there. I was once homeless, sleeping in that bed right there. Now I'm on the board of directors, and now I'm helping out all these other people. So he's shining his light, and that's one thing that I always remind myself of is shine your light, because there's somebody out there that needs to see that light. They need to see that hope. They need to see that there's something at the end of the tunnel. So if I can do it, I'm sure a lot of people love it. Anybody can do it.
That's beautiful. And my second question was going to be a joke, and now I just feel like I can't even make a
joke.
No,
make the joke. Make the joke, bro.
I see you have a ring, right?
Yeah.
So is your spouse as good of a human being as you are? Like, in my relationship, my wife, she does pediatric oncology, right? Like, she takes care of kids with cancer. She's making the world a better place. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'll sell insurance. Yeah. Is your spouse as good of a person as you?
Yeah, she's better than me, actually. She is a human resource partner at Amazon.
Oh, get out.
And I thought I dealt with issues.
I bet.
She's amazing.
That's
She
awesome.
really is. She's got a heart of gold.
Yeah.
And she's also bilingual, which makes it even better, because she can reach out to double the amount of people that I can.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's very cool.
She does HR. She actually just received a promotion at Amazon.
Congrats.
And she's got a lot of she's awesome. She's got a lot of people that have given her good feedback for all the work that she's been doing.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, like I'll kind of listen in when she's doing her like HR stuff, and I'm thinking, just fire him, just figure out a way. She's like figuring out a way to help him and come to a compromise with the leadership there and then the employees as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's awesome. All right. So we are sponsored by Hocus Pocus Cleaning Service. They are an incredible organization in the area. They come in, they clean your house, but they also do the witching hour, and it's magic. They come in, they'll reorganize your closet, do whatever. So I love to say, if you could have any magical ability, what would you have and why?
If I could have any magical ability, I believe it would be the ability to wave a wand and change somebody's life, take them from where they're at and make them get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
I don't have that magic wand, but what I do have is the ability to listen to people. I have the ability to offer assistance. The wand would eliminate a lot of time that it takes to work with somebody. But if I had that magical ability, I would wave that wand and take somebody to where they're at and what they're struggling with and show them what they could be.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you guys do, but this would just shorten the period.
Would shorten that period
a
lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's amazing. So then I have to ask, before we wrap this up, is there anything that we didn't hit that we should hit?
Yeah, Victory House is going to be celebrating its 40th anniversary in April. 40 years.
That's amazing.
40 years of service to the community, helping over 4,000 men in that timeline. So we're going to be celebrating that at Arts Quest on April 17th of next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so big celebration.
We're gonna tell testimonials.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be up there speaking. And, it's gonna be a good time, fun event. So,
that's awesome. Well, congrats to you guys. Thank you for everything you guys do for the community. This show is to shine a spotlight on people who are making the Lehigh Valley a better place.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
There's not a better person.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Tom, for coming on here. I really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the YMI Talking Podcast. If you enjoyed this and want to hear more content from amazing personalities in the Valley, please subscribe, leave a rating, and drop us a quick review.